Hello, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome to the Steelers Syndicate podcast. My name is Pittsburgh Owen, broadcasting to you live here in the UK, guys. It is a little after, 20 to 10 at night here in the UK. The game has just finished. And it is, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's a really interesting one. Plenty of people in the live chat already. I'll get to your comments shortly. But it's a bit of a downer. What a roller coaster of emotions that game truly and utterly was today. A real roller coaster of emotions between the Steelers and the Jets. First half, very poor, typically boring Steelers offense. And then we had an improvement in the second half once Kenny Pickett came into the game. But still, obviously, the game ending in defeat for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was real up and down thing, really up and down, wasn't it? In terms of the fact that it seemed to just be a real lift with Trubisky coming in, and then with Trubisky, a real lift once Kenny came in, but then obviously it couldn't. The defense couldn't hold them. So let's have a look at the live chat first of all before we carry on with the show. Jay Devil in the live chat as always, one of the first. Hey, good to have you on board, Jay. Brian Harrington says, tough one today, but good to see Kenny out there. Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. I think there was a marked improvement in the offense, in the energy in the offense as well, once Kenny came in and started to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, it'd be interesting to see if Pickett keeps the starting job for next week's game. That is obviously a big one for the Steelers going forward. What else have we got in the live chat? Let's get back to the live chat. Sorry, I had a few computer difficulties. If things are a bit slow at the moment, I do apologise. Computer's running a bit slow at this moment in time. Matt Quinn says, glad Kenny finally got in, but the defense and receivers lost this game for us. I think obviously he is making references there to the interceptions that were given away. Chase Claypool failing to fight for the ball and get hold of the ball for Kenny's first interception, and then the second interception obviously deflecting off Pat Freiermuth's fingertips and into the hands of that Jet player, whoever that happened to be. Can't remember the guy's name now, but that's a reference to that. I think they're from Matt there. Judy Girl says, Kenny. Yep. Black Legacy TV says, rookie mistakes. I'd rather see it from our future guy than from a vet that's long reached his ceiling. That was a good second half. We need this kind of production for fourth quarters to compete now. Yeah, I've got 100% agree with you on that one. It's a situation where you're going to put in a rookie quarterback. A rookie quarterback will make rookie mistakes. The step up between college football and NFL football is absolutely huge. And I think that's obviously one thing we've got to take into consideration. Kenny's going to take time to grow into this role, to grow into the role of being the starting quarterback. I really hope that he gets that time now to grow into this starting role. He deserves the time. He certainly deserves the the chance to grow into it, to take over it and be our guy for the long-term future. It's good that he's going to get this season to grow. He's going to get this season to get better. Judy Girl says, sorry, I've had a few technical difficulties, Judy Girl. Status here says, what's Mark is hiding, lol. Mark is asleep still, apparently. I think he had a late night last night because it was the NRL Grand Final. Reigns 871 ROCZ says, yep, I don't blame Kenny for the turnovers when the players was hit in the hands with the ball. Well, guys, keep the live chat comments coming. Keep your questions coming as we're going to go through now and talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's talk about the Steelers offense first of all. I think the offense in the first quarter, as Mike Tomlins just said in his post-match press conference, didn't really provide much at all. And the reason he put Kenny in, as he's just spelled out in his post-match press conference, was that he felt that the offense needed a spark, needed something to get it going. And I think that spark was Kenny Pickett. Mitch Trubisky was exceptionally poor in the first quarter. He did not play well at all. Again, some very, very poor performance. As Black Legacy TV said back there in the live chat, I think he has very much reached his ceiling. He is not an NFL caliber quarterback anymore. He is a backup quarterback now, I think, and that's the position that he needs to learn to accept that he is for the rest of this season. I think the Steelers really do need to make sure that they go with Kenny Pickett for the rest of the season. Pickett looked lively. He threw the ball well to George Pickens in particular, and to Pat Freiermuth, even obviously they had that interception that Pat Freiermuth gave up. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I think overall the offense looked better. There was more of an energy, more of a spark there once Kenny came in. Statistics for the game: Kenny was 10 of 13, 120 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Mitch Trubisky was 7 of 13, 84 yards, 1 interception. I think obviously those 4 takeaways for the Jets are what really cost the Steelers. If we move on now to the running backs for this game, running back statistics: Najee Harris, 18 carries for 74 yards, averaging 4.1 yards per carry. Jaylen Warren, 3 carries for 18 yards, 6 yards per carry. That fumble, I don't think, was on him. It was a poor toss back short of him by Kenny. So I don't think he can blame for that. Kenny Pickett, 6 rushes, 6 carries for 15 yards. 2.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Deontay Johnson, 2 carries, 11 yards, 5.5. Mitch Trubisky, 1 carry, 1 yard. I thought overall that Najee Harris did very well. I thought he fought for yards. He broke 1 play. I think obviously he's still fighting his way back to fitness. He's still getting himself back to being fully fit for the rest of the season. I think that's, he's growing week on week. His output is growing week on week, and that is positive, I think. Officiating was horrible, says Rands 871. Mitch was robbed of a TD, in my opinion, and that ball at the end was punched out fumble. So different take there from the officials from Rands there. But overall, I thought, Jaylen Warren again looked decent for a rookie. Steelers have got a decent 1-2 punch there. I feel with the 2 running backs. You've got Najee Harris, who, like I said, did very well, and then you've got Jaylen Warren. Not since the days of sort of having James Conner as a backup to Le'Veon Bell, or is it D'Angelo Williams, who was another backup running back, if we had that 1-2 punch. But Najee seems to be improving now game on game in terms of his output. Let's move on to the receiving core. I think obviously Chase Claypool has to take part of the blame for that interception that went against him in that in that third quarter that Pickett threw. Pickett's first pass in the NFL goes down as an interception. But I think even you saw Claypool take the blame to some extent. He did actually say at one point, I think he did pat his chest and say it was on him. The Pat Freiermuth one, I think CBS had an interesting take on that. They said that Kenny shouldn't have thrown that ball to Freiermuth and should have just thrown it away. I think that's probably something that will come with expertise. There's always that danger, isn't it? The rookies try to force it. They try to impress by forcing it. And I think that's what they were perhaps getting at there, that Kenny was trying to force it a little bit. Let's move on to the receiving core. George Pickens had his best game for the Pittsburgh Steelers: 6 receptions, 102 yards, 17 yards per catch. I thought George Pickens was absolutely fantastic in this game. The catch on the sideline when he got his toe tap down, the toe drag swag to get that reception from Kenny. That one over the middle, in the last 16 seconds as well. I thought Pickens did very, very well indeed. It's really promising as well to see that connection, isn't it, between Kenny and between Pickett being there. That connection building up there for the future. Certainly something we're going to see for that long-term future. Pat Freiermuth, 7 receptions, 85 yards, 12.1 yards average. Deontay Johnson, only 2 receptions in this game for 11 yards, 5.5 yards a catch. Jaylen Warren, 1 catch for 4 yards. Zach Gentry, 1 catch for 2 yards. Chase Claypool with no receptions in this game. The receiver core, again, it's difficult to judge the receiver core in this game. I think it was not until Pickett came on in the second half that we saw them harnessing the receiver core. We saw them actually trying to use Pickens, to use Pat, to use Zach Gentry, to use Deontay Johnson effectively. But definitely. Judy Gill says both those Kenny interceptions were the pause of the receivers. The Kenny era has begun, folks. Yes, I think you are definitely right there. The offensive line had a couple of bad moments there, allowing a couple of sacks on Trubisky. But I've got to say one thing, going back to Kenny Pickett in there with the pass to, was it to Freiermuth, that got the Steelers in a position to score their second touchdown. If you look at that game again, that throw again, I do not know how Kenny Pickett got that throw away. He just seemed to have no time at all to get the throw away. His release was absolutely lightning fast, stood up there in the face of the pressure, looked down the barrel of that Jets defensive lineman coming straight at him and threw the ball under pressure straight to Pat Freiermuth. What an amazing throw that was. And if that's a sign of things to come, that's a really positive thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take out of this game. The line, like I said, gave clean pockets to both Trubisky and to Pickett, and obviously the run blocking was improving. Over 100 yards rushing today for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This season, they were averaging 90 yards rushing. You're looking at 94, 100, 104, 107, 118, 119 yards rushing on today's game. So again, an improvement, a step forward from last week, which I think was 109 yards, 107, 109 yards rushing. So a movement forward, at least from that aspect in terms of the run blocking. The line, I think, is improving week on week. I think this is going to be a real test now for the Steelers that they go in this next week and they give Pickett the opportunity to work with the ones. They prepare for Pickett. I think that's another thing you've got to consider as well. That Kenny came in, he did very well, but Kenny was coming in with a situation where he hadn't prepared it to start. He hadn't thrown the ball and worked with the ones on Friday. This is very much a scheme and offense set up for Mitch Trubisky, and I think hopefully the Steelers will persist and keep Pickett in there for next week's game, and will give him an opportunity to start against the Buffalo Bills, which will be a very, very tough game. Of course it will, against the Bills. The Bills are a good team. They beat the Ravens today, 23-20. Tampa John says, anyone have any offensive tackles you can loan us? We'd be grateful. funny. But no, I think give Kenny a full week's prep, give him a chance to really prepare with this team. Then I think you're going to see an even better Kenny Pickett next week against the Bills, which will be a massive test. That Bills defense, even though it is suffering from the loss of likes of Jordan Poyer, for example, is still a very good defense. So that is going to be a big test for him next week. But give him a week to work with the ones, give him a week to develop with the ones. I think what we've got to take out of this game, yes, we've lost the game, unfortunately, to the New York Jets, which is obviously in itself is embarrassing to lose to a team like the Jets. But what you've got to take out of this game, Steeler Nation, I think, is the positive that the offense started to look better with Kenny Pickett in there. A lot of people have said, well, it's going to be the same old offense no matter who you have there. But I think he provided energy, he provided spark, he provided more mobility than Mitch. He provided more accurate throwing as well. So I think that is definitely, a positive going forward for the Bills game, into the Bucs game, the Dolphins game, and obviously into the Eagles game as well. Obviously, all tough games. The Steelers schedule from now on does not get any easier. Yes, we are 1-3, but this schedule does not get any easier now. And obviously, that's something that, we've got to go with a bit of hope that Kenny can turn this around and can get this team back to winning ways. My good buddy 007 in the live chat makes some good point. Too many penalties on the Steelers side. Yeah, I think that's a point as well that Mike Tomlin made in his post-match press conference. A lot of drives were affected by penalties. We are still giving up this a number of penalties always for this ineligible man downfield. I think Kevin Dotson and James Daniels were pinged for that ineligible man downfield on passing plays that they thought were running plays. So yeah, ineligible man downfield penalties is something the Steelers have to cut out. Some silly things to do. Hey, Jets are a much improved team, and we beat you with our 5th and 6th tackles. Also, Tampa John is obviously a New York Jets fan. Congratulations on your victory today, Tampa John. I thought that Zach Wilson was very impressive for you today. Zach Wilson, I think, came back in and he led the Jets very, very well. He worked under pressure. He delivered when he needed to. And I think that was the difference between the actual teams, was that Zach Wilson came back and did a fantastic job for the Jets. I think that's something that we hope Kenny Pickett can turn into, that delivering in the clutch like Zach Wilson did today for the Jets. But I think this is a game I think a lot of people have marked down as a W, hadn't they, on their schedules, and to lose at home is always a bad one to lose at home. You shouldn't be losing your home games. You should be turning your home stadium into a fortress, and that's something the Steelers have failed to do. Their only victory this season coming on the road. Tampa John says, true, I don't think Flacco could have won this game. No, I don't think he could have done. Flacco, especially as the Steelers have Flacco's number. If we look at the defensive stats from this game, Devin Bush had 6 tackles. Minka Fitzpatrick, 5 tackles, 3 assists, 1 interception. Many could have said it was a pick 6, but apparently was run out of bounds. Miles Jack, 5 tackles, 3 assists. Trey Norwood, 5 tackles, 2 assists. Arthur Morley, 5 tackles, 2 assists. DeMarvin Leal, 2 and 2. Chris Wormley, 2 and 2. He blew up a couple of running plays quite well there. Montravius Adams, 2 tackles. Alex Highsmith, 1 tackle, 3 assisted tackles, and 1 sack to extend his sacks this season to 5.5 sacks. Larry Ogunjobi, 1 and 2. Levi Wallace, 1 and 1. Cam Sutton, 1 tackle, 1 interception. Cam Hayward, 3 assisted tackles. Jameer Jones, again, failing to trouble the scorers. What is the concern here? I think what is the concern going forward? Obviously, there is a number of injuries to the defense again, which is a concern. Obviously, the big one now is TJ Watt. The team just seems unable to win without TJ Watt now. Steelers are now 0-7 without TJ Watt. I mean, that is a pretty bad record. And when you become a one-man team like that, a one-man defense like that, yeah, it's pretty bad. Tampa John says, I'm out. Good luck to you. Best beat all the AFC East teams. We'll try our best, John, for you. But yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It is a tough one. We know what they just seem unable to. I mean, their pressure rate today was better. I think it was 44% up from 19% in previous weeks. So it was better, and it was getting better. But they seem inability to get the pressure on the quarterback, and that really cost them in that second half when Zach Wilson was leading the Jets on all those drives to score those 2 touchdowns. The lack of having Watt there really hurts. Really does hurt. 007 says, do you think Tomlin had seen enough of Trubisky? Did Pickett take over? Yeah, I think he had. I think, like he said in his press conference, they needed a spark. They needed something different. But going on about those injuries, obviously, the injury to Watt is a big one. Minka's knee has also been evaluated. Terrell Edmonds is in the concussion protocols. Cam Sutton also has a hamstring injury as well. So that does not bode well for the next week. We've got to make sure those guys are fit. If we go into Buffalo to play them without Minka, without TJ, without Terrell Edmonds, without Cam Sutton, that is a very weak defense. In my live stream that I've just got off on Pittsburgh Owen, a number of people made the point that this defense looks average without TJ Watt, and I think that is very, very true. The offense does look the defense does look particularly average without Watt. It seems that what Cam Hayward said this week about them stepping up didn't really happen to some extent. Rand says, Jody girl, yep, Kenny, I'm excited though we lost today. I think there is still that feeling of optimism, isn't there, in Steeler Nation because of the fact that Kenny came in and he made a difference out there. And that is a positive for the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward. But the defense today, I think what the problem was, it didn't come up with the plays at the right times. When it needed to put stops on the Jets offense, it did not happen. And I think that even though there was a number of times the Jets offense hurt themselves, with a number of penalties that moved them back, giving the Steelers a chance again. The defense just, on those key second and third down plays, didn't seem to be able to stop the Jets. Didn't seem to stop Zach Wilson. Tyler Conklin really hurt us. Corey Davis really hurt us. Breece Hall really hurt us. And I think that's what cost us the game at the end of the day. The fact that, in that second half, the defense could not put the stops on when we needed it to stop the Jets from driving down the field. Both those touchdown drives that had were long drives that chewed a lot of clock up. And that's what cost the Steelers at the end of the day. So, going forward, I think the defense again is starting to become a concern because the fact that TJ Watt is not there, and this is awful that we seem so dependent on one team and one player and one player alone. And that's something that we've got to turn around. Ready for the Buffalo game next week. Brian Harrington says, Tomlin wouldn't commit to starting Kenny next week. Getting tired of his rhetoric. I used to take him at his word, but he's playing politics this year too much with the media. I think you're right there. Yes, he wouldn't commit at all. I think that's what we need to do. We need to commit to him. He needs to come out there and say, that Kenny is our starter. Kenny is the man. and give Kenny the confidence. Saying a sneeze, I do apologise. My apologies. Jody Girl says, man, what if you played both halves? I think it's a different game. That being said, this loss was much easier to take seeing the future. I think you're 100% right there, Judy Girl, on that comment that you've just made. In terms of the coaching staff, I think Matt Canada is still a major concern going forward. His play calling is suspect. He's still trying to run that college offense. It'd be interesting to see, though, give what happens next week with Canada having a week to work with Kenny Pickett, who, he was the man who recruited him to Pitt. Yes, Kenny never played with Canada. Canada left the season before, at the end of the season before when Pickett came. So it'll be interesting to see, given a week to work, what will be different next week, and will this offense look any better having a week to scheme for Kenny being back there, if it is that Kenny that starts. I really don't see how you can go back to Trubisky. I think that will be a major step backwards and a retrograde step. And what would that do to Kenny's confidence? Kenny's confidence may be knocked a little bit from those 3 interceptions anyway. So that's something they've got to pick up. So that's pretty much it. I think Kenny looked like Hayward having fun out there today. Reminded me of Hines Ward when he played. He was having fun out there. Yes, I agree with you, Brian. I think he was. But in terms of the coaching staff, I think Tomlin looked fed up. He looked dejected today for the first time in a while. And I think perhaps he's starting to realise a little bit about what this job this year is exactly entailing and how much he depended on Ben in the past. I think Ben, we gave Ben a lot of criticism last year, didn't we, for the way Ben played? But I don't think that is fair at all. Okay, guys, I'm going to call this post-game show a wrap because I've got a few personal things I need to take care of. Thank you for tuning in. It's obviously better when we have 2 of us here to talk it over. It's difficult doing a post-game, especially after you come off talking for 3.5 hours on a stream. So, guys, thank you so much for watching this Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate podcast post-game show. I think what the message we've got to take away, Steeler Nation, from today, there is still hope. There is a positive to take from today that Kenny came in. Hopefully, Kenny was the starting quarterback next week against the Bills and going forward for the rest of the season. Thank you to everyone who came in the live chat. Thank you for everyone who joined us. Brian, thank you. No problems, mate. Good to hear from you. Let's just keep going, guys. No matter what, we are Steelers for life. No matter what the results, we bleed black and gold. This beats in our heart forever. The hypercycloids are in there. They're buried deeper than just this badge on my chest now. They're right inside. You cut me in half. There's a hypercycloid heart. I'm black and gold through and through, guys. This is it. We are Steeler fans for life, no matter what. We stick by our team through thick and thin. Yes, we are 1-3. We've got to keep fighting. We go again. It's got to change. It's got to break. We've got to have hope that Kenny can come in and lead us to success next week against the Buffalo Bills. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Here we go, Steelers. Come on.